I want you to imagine a new card concept. A card that is invisible to all other troops and towers on the field and is impervious to any damage dealt to it. That probably sounds like a crazy, broken concept, am I right? Well, you can stop imagining because that is effectively what the new Evo Lumberjack's ability is in a nutshell. And no, I'm really not exaggerating. This card is going to be incredibly broken. So let's talk about everything that we need to know about the new Lumberjack card evolution. Starting off with the most important concept, the thing that everyone cares about the most, the Lumberjack's Evo ability. In the most simplest of terms, when the Evo Lumberjack falls in the arena, it spawns an invincible ghost that is active in the arena so long as it is within the radius of a rage spell. Honestly, it's a really creative and novel concept. And that is just the concept in a nutshell, so let's get into a little more detail. The respawn Lumberjack, also known as the Lumberjack's Ghost, has a few interesting mechanics. Aside from being invisible to all other troops and towers, he is also invincible and does an insane amount of DPS. And like I said, as long as the Lumberjack's Ghost is actively inside the radius of a rage spell, he can't be damaged and will continue to do damage until that rage spell goes away. So hypothetically, if you were to drop a rage spell on the Lumberjack's Ghost right as it was about to disappear, the ghost will remain on the map for the additional duration of that additional rage spell. And in case you're already thinking the same thing as me, the mirrored rage spell also keeps the Lumberjack's Ghost alive. So altogether, there's potential for this invincible ghost to be alive for the initial rage that is dropped by the Lumberjack, a rage spell that is placed on him afterwards, and then an additional mirrored rage spell after all of that. And you might think to yourself, why waste that much elixir on a single troop? Because that troop is invincible and it does an insane amount of damage if left alone. So if this thing gets on your opponent's tower, there's almost nothing they can do to stop it. And with that being said, what can you do to actually defend this broken card effectively? Well, we've already established that this card will not take any damage when it is in its ghost form, meaning that even the damage from a rocket cannot remove this card from the arena. Therefore, the only way to counter this card is to find a way to remove it from the radius of the rage spell. Because when the Lumberjack's Ghost isn't actively inside the radius of a rage spell, he will disappear in about 2 seconds. So option number 1 for defending is to use a kite. You can kite away the card with a giant or a rune giant or an ice golem as long as you kite it out of the radius of a rage spell. Although, as I'm sure many of you are thinking, this kite setup isn't always viable. Option number 2 is to push or pull the Lumberjack's Ghost out of the radius of the rage spell. Because while spells can't deal damage to this troop, it can still affect the placement and location of the card in the arena. For example, one of, if not the, best way to defend the Evo Lumberjack on your Princess Tower is to tornado it to the King Tower since it removes it from the radius of the rage spell, and will activate your King Tower. But if you do not have Tornado and this card locks on your tower, there really isn't that much that you can do. Maybe you can log it back, but that's really not going to do that much to stop it. Option number 3, and really this isn't as good as number 2, but to use a card as a meat shield. In my opinion, this should kind of be like a last-ditch effort sort of thing, but a big beefy troop like a rune giant or a giant could eat up a lot of that Lumberjack damage until the rage spell disappears from the map and the Lumberjack's Ghost will despawn. All in all, though, this card seems like a nightmare to defend, and I already know that next season we are going to see a ton of awful fast cycle decks with Lumberjack, with Rage, with Mirror, and they are just going to be wreaking havoc on the meta. Now that we fully comprehend what the card does, let's just talk a little bit about the stats. Honestly, the most important takeaway with the stats is that this card is a 1-cycle evolution. And for a 4 elixir card, that is pretty crazy, but what it means is that every other Lumberjack is an evolved Lumberjack. In terms of the stats or adjustments to the normal Lumberjack, there are no changes to the base Lumberjack. The only changes to the card are the addition of this new ghost mechanic. Nothing is being touched about the first form, aka that base Lumberjack card. Now, in terms of the damage output that the Lumberjack's Ghost does, compared to the normal Lumberjack, it was originally designed to be the exact same DPS as the base Lumberjack, but apparently the balance team thought this was too OP, so the Lumberjack's Ghost will do 25% less damage than the base Lumberjack. Phew! I mean, good thing the balance team caught that and the card is totally balanced now. And that is the Lumberjack evolution in a nutshell. I myself think this card and the concept is incredibly broken and it looks like a nightmare to defend, but who knows? Maybe I'm overreacting, but probably not. But let me know what you think of the card though. I love seeing your guys' comments. And thank you times a million for watching. I really hope to see you in another video real soon. Peace out!